Hi, hello, welcome to the Cozy Soul Knitting Podcast. This is episode 29. So if you're new here, hello, I'm Saoirse. I'm a knitter from the Pacific Northwest area, and this is my channel where I like to talk about my knitting. I've got some finished objects to share, I have some whips, I have some acquisitions, and I am also going to be doing a little bit of a life update. Somewhat. And I also want to talk about some stash goals for 2025 that I have. I am going to talk about that at the end of the video because I'm sure there's going to be some people that don't really care about it, and you can obviously hang around and chat with me for a little bit longer if you do want to hear. Also, I uploaded my Everything That I Knit in 2024 video. If you haven't seen it and would like to go watch, I would really appreciate it. It was not like a huge effort to film, but it did take a while and there was a lot of trying on of things. So if you want to go give that video some love, I would appreciate it. Let's chat about my finished objects. The first one is what I'm currently wearing. This is the Sunset Sweatshirt by Jessie Maed Designs, and I knit it out of Patons Classic Wool Worsted in the colorway Punkin. So I was hoping to have this done in the fall. Obviously, like, that did not happen, but I love this color. I thought it was gonna look like a pumpkin. Like, I really did. I thought, I was like, this is gonna look kind of silly. And I'm only gonna want to wear it during like the Halloween season, but it's actually such a cute color and I really like this color on me. So I'm going to move my hair out of the way so you can see the shoulder details. It's not my favorite the way that this is constructed, but it's fine, but like I'll get to that, like, why I don't love it in a minute. But I do feel like this is one of those situations where I feel like this is going to be one of those situations where when I bring this back out in like next fall, after taking a break from wearing it in the warmer months, I'm going to not care about this and I'm gonna wear it all the time. So I'm trying to remind myself of that so I can wear it now. So what I want to start off by saying and just talking about the pattern. First of all, as with, I feel like I'm acting like I've done so many Jessie Maed design patterns, but I think I've only knit the mini mock neck tank by her. I do have some others I think in my library, but I haven't knit them yet. But I found this this design to be just as well written and enjoyable to knit as the mini mock neck tank. Obviously, if you've knit some of her patterns before and you enjoyed them, I feel like you'll enjoy this one as well. It is a drop shoulder, so you start with the back panel, then pick up stitches for the front panel, and then that's where it's a little bit different, is like instead of there being kind of like short row shaping on the back panel, there's like short row shaping on both panels on the shoulder. I don't know if there's a term for that type of construction or not, but it creates kind of this thing where like the shoulders are a bit raised, and then I think the back neckline might be just ever so slightly higher than the front, but I think that's because of the shoulder shaping and not I don't think there was any, if I recall correctly, I don't think there was any like neck shaping, like back neck shaping. But other than that, it's just your basic stockinette drop shoulder sweater, and it features 2x2 ribbing on the cuff and the hem, which I will show you in a minute. And then there's an option you can and I feel like it's it's always pretty easy to kind of switch to 2x2 ribbing if you want to, but for the neckline, the pattern says to do just 1x1 rib, but that you can do 2x2 rib if you would like to. I think it would give a little bit of a tighter neckline, I think is what the pattern said. And I think after this was blocked, part of me does kind of wish I had done the 2x2 rib just to kind of get this a little bit more snug, but I do kind of like that it's not, super close to my neck, like there's room here. I feel like it does limit the shirts that I can wear underneath, because I personally don't really love when my t-shirt is like popping through a sweatshirt, like around the collar. It's not a huge deal when I'm just sitting at home and stuff, I don't really care, but like if I'm going out, I'd rather my t-shirt not show underneath. I'm pretty sure that as soon as I got done with the decreases, like the sleeve was already very long. I am a sweater paws person though. I love this. This is my comfort, you know, just being able to hide my hands in the sleeves of my sweater. I personally love, but for like a cozy sweatshirt feel, this is where it's at, in my opinion. I'm trying to think what else to say about this. I would just say, like, if you're not interested in the shaping with this sweatshirt, you probably don't need this pattern. Like, it's, again, very basic drop shoulder stockinette sweater. You don't need the directions to know how to do a 2x2 ribbed cuff. I would definitely recommend it, but for the people that are interested in the shaping, in the shoulder shaping, and kind of want to learn how to do that. And then it does have bust shaping, which is also really another great thing about it. So I would say if you already kind of have like a go-to drop shoulder sweater pattern that you love and you're not super interested in like this neckline and like the shoulder shaping, then I would say that this is definitely not a pattern you need to have. But if you're like, oh, I love the neckline and the shoulder shaping is very interesting to me, then I would definitely recommend this pattern. I feel like this is something, you know, you could use as sort of a, like if you really just like this construction, you can kind of play around with maybe stripes or some, you know, adding some texture in, but like with this as the basis. So it's like one of those patterns that I feel like I may, you know, knit in the future and kind of add my own spin to it, something like that. But again, super well written pattern, really did enjoy knitting it, and I would, you know, overall very much recommend the pattern. The yarn, Patons Classic Wool Worsted is, I feel like, a pretty good yarn. It's very accessible in terms of affordability. It's also, you can get it from Joann's and Michael's, and I feel like they're always having sales on yarn. So very affordable, budget-friendly yarn, which I appreciate. And it's not, you know, a super soft yarn. I feel like it does have like a bit of that prickliness that wool has, but I wouldn't describe it as rustic either. Like it's fairly soft. It's definitely not like a merino or anything, but it's nice, and I like working with it. I did find that I feel like a lot of the skeins that I had this time around for some reason had some weird joins in them, like where, you know, it's knotted together and stuff like that, and I had to kind of cut those out as I was knitting, which I wasn't a fan of, and for some reason it felt like it was like every other skein had an issue like that, and I was kind of like, what is happening? But that's, you know, it happens, it's whatever. So I would use this yarn again. I do have quite a bit left over, I'm pretty sure. Don't know what I'm gonna make with it, but it could definitely be used for a colorwork sweater in the future. Just kind of hang on to it until I decide what I want to make with it. I think I've heard that this yarn does pill pretty easily. I don't really notice any pilling so far, but it does have kind of the halo coming off of it, you know? So like, I'm trying to think of what else I would want to say about it. So this is the hem. I mean, these are my sweats that I'm wearing. I would not wear these together. Not that these colors are like bad together, it's just not my personal preference. I would wear this more so like if I was going out, I'd throw on a pair of jeans and, you know, call it a day. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's a bit boxy, and it's just a cozy sweatshirt feel. Could I have gone down a size? Probably. I do feel like it's a bit big on me, but I think that's kind of the point. But yeah, as you can kind of see, I feel like the hem in the back and in the front are pretty much level. There may be like a little bit of, no, I feel like, I don't know, it's hard to tell in the viewfinder, but I feel like they're pretty level there. So I did do the bust shaping. I don't know if I said that, but I did do it. I think I would definitely go down a size next time if I was knitting this again, just because I do feel that it's a bit big. It's just a bit, you know, and it's oversized. It's supposed to be a bit bigger. I think I picked my size based off of the recommended ease, but I did go off, because I was doing the bust shaping, I did go off of my upper bust measurement instead of my full bust measurement, and it's still a bit too big, but I think it's also because it's meant to be an oversized sweater. Also, it's not super cropped. I think it was supposed to be a bit more cropped than this, but on me, this is just, I wouldn't consider this cropped. It goes past my waistband, so I would consider cropped to be more kind of up here on me personally. So that's just kind of another little thing to note for the fit of this. But I'm gonna go ahead and move on because we've been talking about it for a long time. If there's anything I didn't cover that you would like to know, you can definitely leave me a comment and I will get back to you. My next finished object, also both of these I did show in my last video, which was the everything I knit in 2024. So if you watched that, sorry for it being a bit repetitive, but this one I didn't actually get to try on for you because it was still a little bit damp, but this one I did show. I finished my Wood Witch wrap. So this is a pattern by Rachel Keener, and I knit it with the Moonglow Yarn Co. Woodland Witch collection. This is a bit hard to show, but I'm just gonna kind of try to do my best to show off all of the sections here. So there's this lace here, this jacquard, I don't know how to say that. I need to look that up because I hate repeating that I don't know how to say it. There's this section here, which I'm not really sure. It's just got some texture to it. I'm not sure what it's called. This is the smocking section. This one was like the little bauble section. There's like little baubles here, and then the brioche section, and then there's this section here that has like a waviness to it, and then it just repeats. This is a bit too much color-wise going on for me. I would not pair these two together, but I would probably honestly like use this more as like a really big scarf, is how I'm planning on kind of styling it. I haven't had the occasion to wear this yet, so, but it's beautiful. It was so much fun to knit. I think every section took, I feel like about a day. It was about a day's worth for me, at least, of knitting. And so it was just like, it was really nice, you know, just kind of wake up in the morning, start the new section, and then just kind of throughout the day as I'm picking up my knitting and just kind of working through, I was able to usually finish each section that day that I started it, and then, oh, this is kind of, this is on the wrong side. And then I would just, yeah, either finish the little garter stripes in between, or either that day or like do it in the morning. So it's just a really, really fun pattern. Highly recommend it. Great way to try out different techniques. I would say like this one was definitely one of my favorites. Obviously the brioche, I love brioche. So I really enjoyed those sections as well. If you've been watching my videos, you know I ran out of the brown yarn, the main color. Still unsure what happened. It's obviously gauge related, but I did measure after I blocked this to be extra sure that my gauge was still tighter than the pattern recommended, and it is, at least for the garter. I don't know about the other sections, so that's my theory, is that my brioche tension or or this part in the middle, my tension maybe loosened up a lot, or I just had a looser tension than the pattern designer, and therefore I used up too much of the brown yarn. But thankfully Whitney, the owner of Moonglow Yarn Co., she had a partial skein that she was able to sell to me, so that solved that problem, and I was able to finish this, and I'm really, really grateful for that, because I just would have been sad if I couldn't have finished this, or if I had to do something kind of funky to finish it, like not do the stripes or something. And yeah, I mean, just these colors together, like they're just so beautiful. Okay, we're halfway through the finished objects. I have more than usual today. This next one is a Musselburgh hat, my first one ever. I feel like it's a bit of a rite of passage, right? Like, I just feel like so many people, you know, knit a Musselburgh at some point in their knitting career. I'm just gonna put this on real quick. I feel like this got a lot bigger with blocking, which is fine. I feel like I'm very picky about how the tops of hats look, like if they don't slouch exactly the way that I want them to. I don't like it, but this is my first Musselburgh hat. It was knit, I believe the hand dyer is I believe it was WIldstar fibers. I will correct myself if I'm wrong. I don't remember the shade or the colorway name of this, so I will put that on the screen. I have a little bit left, don't know where it is. Something about that size left, like small little thing. I really like it. I haven't worn it yet, just to, you know, make sure it stayed nice for the podcast. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I gotta hold off so I can make sure to show it in its most pristine form on the podcast first, and then I can wear it. But then other times I'm like, that's stupid. I want to wear my knits. I'm gonna wear them. You know, I go back and forth. So, but yeah, nice and slouchy. You can also obviously fold it. So, just kind of show you what that looks like. Not as slouchy, obviously, but kind of, you know, I think if my ears were super cold, I'd do this. So it's like a nice double layer on my ears. I will definitely be knitting another one of these at some point. I just think anytime I have a skein of, you know, hand-dyed yarn where I'm like, I don't really want this to be a pair of socks, I feel like I will go with the Musselburgh hats. Also, well, I do love the Oslo hat for sure. I will definitely knit one of those again, but I think this will also be in rotation as well. I really like, just now me putting it on, I'm like, I really like this again. I also really like the Oslo hat and how that looks, but wouldn't mind knitting this again. And obviously, you know, it's just one long tube. It took me a while to get through this because this was really just, I casted it on just to make sure I always had a bit of stockinette knitting that I could do. I had so many things on the needles that it just was never the focus project for me, and so it just took forever to finish, which is fine. I mean, that's totally fine. It's kind of the point of it, was just to always, if I was in between stockinette projects, I could pick this up, or say my stockinette project was a sweater and I didn't want to take that with me somewhere, I could take this instead. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to show you. I think you can tell. I can definitely see in the viewfinder, so hopefully you guys can tell. This side doesn't have like as much color to it. Like it almost looks like it's getting lighter and lighter. So because I kind of like this side better, I've been tucking like this one up instead, because I like how this one has like a bit more of the purple to it and more of the speckles, and then this is a little bit lighter. I just thought that was kind of interesting how the yarn did that. The tutorials that Ysolda Teague has for this hat, I feel like are really well done and really helpful, because when I got to the end and I'm like, how the heck am I supposed to weave in this last end from, you know, the wrong side when the tube is closed? She does demonstrate how to do that in the tutorial, so that was very helpful and I appreciated that. So now my last project is a pair of socks. I'm super happy to have these off the needles. I don't know if I'll really be wearing them until next fall, because I kind of want to keep them nice and just have them like ready and waiting for fall. But I did finish my Hey There Pumpkin socks. So exciting. So this pattern, I am forgetting the designer's name. I'm so sorry. I will of course have it on the screen, and I really need to make sure I know, because I'm definitely going to be wanting to knit more of her patterns. This was a yarn kit from, again, Moonglow Yarn Co. I really loved knitting these. Let's talk through colorwork socks for a minute. Obviously, if you've been here before, you know my first attempt at colorwork socks didn't end up going so well. They ended up not fitting my feet. I already knit on 2.5mm needles for socks because I am a tighter knitter. I feel like most patterns call for like 2.25, so I do 2.5mm. In colorwork socks for both this pair and my blooming lavender socks that I knit, I did the second size. I normally knit the first size in patterns. It's always worked out for me, except for with colorwork socks, because of how tight the floats and stuff can get. I think a lot of people knit their colorwork a little bit tighter than they normally knit regular stockinette. So with the Blooming Lavender socks, I did go up a needle size for the colorwork portion. For these, I did not. So that's a little bit interesting for this. So these fit. They're a little tight getting over my heel, but like they fit. And I can get them on unlike the other socks. I knit these on 9-inch circulars. And first of all, let me tell you, knitting colorwork socks on 9-inch circulars, for me, so much more enjoyable than knitting on Magic Loop. I don't normally mind Magic Loop, and in fact I will probably continue to knit my vanilla socks on Magic Loop. I really don't mind it. My vanilla socks I feel fit super duper well. They have like the right amount of negative ease where I just feel like they fit my feet really well, and they're not moving around, they're not too big, except for sometimes as I'm wearing them I feel like the yarn does kind of stretch out a little bit, especially for like the superwash like 80/20 yarn that I feel like most hand dyers use. That yarn I feel like just depends, that it does stretch a little bit on my feet, I think, and so the socks end up kind of being a little too big as I wear them, but then when I wash them I feel like they kind of go back to normal. I don't know. But for color work, because I don't really want the color work stretching out too much, even if it fits, I don't want the color work to like stretch out where you can't really make out like what the motifs are. I do want a little bit of a looser fit for those socks, and so I may even try going up to the last size to just make sure that they are fitting over my heel. But I think that these worked out really well because my gauge is just a little bit looser on 9-inch circulars. So what I will do for my next pair of colorwork socks is I will knit them on my 9-inch circulars, but I will, for the colorwork, I will go up to a 2.75 millimeter needle for the colorwork portion. I didn't do that on these socks just because the pattern said, every time the colorwork started, it would increase the amount of stitches, and that is supposed to combat your tighter tension. And so I didn't feel I needed to for this, because it like the pattern said, like, unless you're a super tight colorwork knitter, like you don't need to change needle sizes. But I think I would still, just to make sure that the colorwork is fitting. So I will try that next time for my colorwork socks. But knitting them on 9-inch circulars helps so much with my tension. I think I was able to knit, once I got used to the 9-inch circulars, I was knitting a lot looser on them, I think. And so yeah, it was just a very nice experience. I really, really enjoyed it, which is, yeah. And the reason that I hated 9-inch circulars when I first tried them was because I was trying to knit the smallest size of sock of like the vanilla socks by the Crazy Sock Lady pattern. They were just like, there just wasn't enough stitches on the needles, so it was really just awful experience. So of course I didn't like it, and I didn't understand how people could like knit on those, because I'm like, I can't like get my like needles in this, because it was just too small of a circumference. So now to kind of focus in on the pattern, this uses a German short row heel, and then the toe, I think what is this called, a wedge toe? I feel like pretty normal, except for I'm used to decreasing every other row until you get to a certain amount of stitches, and then decreasing every row, and I feel like it kind of helps to taper the toe in a little bit. This one didn't, the pattern didn't say to do that, and I wanted to just give it a try to see how it fits. So you just keep decreasing every other row on the toe for these, and I don't like how it fits. I can already kind of tell. I put them on before blocking to make sure that they would fit, and so after blocking too, I haven't tried them on, so they could actually be perfect, so we'll see. I wanted to keep them nice for the podcast and for next fall. But yeah, but the toe, when I tried them on, I could just tell that the toe, I wasn't gonna like it a lot, because it's just a bit too big for my feet personally. So I won't be trying that toe out again. I will just do it the way that I normally do. And then the German short row heel, I'm not a huge fan, but it was also my first time doing it. It left huge holes in the corners here, but the pattern gives a link to a tutorial that shows you how to get rid of those. Did I watch it? No. Why didn't I watch it? Can't tell you. I think maybe I forgot, or I just was lazy and I was like, I'll just weave in my ends and try to close it up. I don't know, but the tutorial I think would have helped a lot and I should have done it. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to kind of report back on if I enjoy this heel or not. Knitting it was fine other than like the holes, but I think since it was my first time doing it and because I was using a contrast color for the heel, I wasn't exactly sure how to, because you basically start it with a double stitch, and because I was changing yarn I couldn't do a double stitch, so I don't know if that also like contributed. It was fine, like I was able to keep going with the pattern. I don't think it really mattered, but I think that would be my one critique of the pattern, is that it tells you to just use the main color, but it does have this yarn used as one of the samples. So obviously a lot of people are going to be knitting it kind of doing colors like these or with the same yarn. So why would you have the pattern say to use the main color? I thought that was an odd choice, but it's not a big deal because I can just not do that. I could just use whatever color I wanted, but I wish that the pattern had kind of told you how to, like the best way to kind of join that new yarn for a contrast heel, considering that like one of the samples is using a contrast heel. Not a big deal at all. And I probably could have looked up a tutorial for it, but again, I was a bit lazy and and I was like, you know what, they're German short rows, like how hard can it be? And again, it's not hard, but it was just sort of like getting started on them. But yeah, I'm curious to see how these wear. It doesn't have that cushiness that like a slip stitch heel would have, so I'm just curious to see how it's gonna wear, how I'm gonna like it, how it's gonna fit as I continue to wear these. But I'll try to remember to report back to you all after I get a good amount of wear out of these in next fall. But I am gonna save them for the fall time, for Halloween, for pumpkin season, but I can wear these together. And with my sweats, I feel like I could be a pumpkin for Halloween. Those are all my finished objects. I feel like that took a while, but I am down to 5 whips because I got down to 3 and I casted 2 on, and only one of them is a garment. So I do want more garments on the needles, but I do want to get a couple of these done first before I cast on more garments, or just before I cast on anything else. But I had a couple of random cast-ons that one of them was really a kind of a dopamine cast-on, if you will, like a serotonin cast-on, is that what they call it? I don't remember what the difference between those two, I just know that they both make you feel good, so whatever. Don't know which one would be the appropriate term, but I think people call it a serotonin cast-on. I'm gonna just kind of quickly remind you of a couple of whips that I haven't been working on but intend to hopefully focus in on soon. The first one is a pair of vanilla socks. I've got one sock tube done. Just needs the heel, which I will do when I'm done with both. And then this is where I'm at on the other one. I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish these. I was watching Faith's podcast, Fiber Fables, and she was knitting with this yarn but like in a different colorway, and she had done like a 2x2 ribbed sock, and I feel like with the way that this gradient effect that this yarn has, it looked so good with 2x2 rib, and I was like, I want to rip mine out and do a 2x2 rib, but I already got one done, well, almost done, and so I'm not gonna do that, but I do want to get this yarn again and do a 2x2 rib. Also see how much I have left when I'm done with these socks, because maybe it's enough to do like a shorty ribbed set of socks. But I also feel like I want like longer. If it's gonna be ribbed, I want it longer. But I don't know. We'll see how much yarn I have left. It might not be something I want to mess around with. I can always get, you know, another colorway of this and copy her socks. So I do want to get back to working on this and get these socks off the needles because they've been on for a while. But I just wanted to remind you that those are a pair that I'm working on. And then I have another sock set that, socks. I have another pair of socks on, well, they're not on the needles actually. I have one done. These are the Cove socks? Is that what they're called? It's been a while. These are the Coral Cove socks. It's a pattern by Yarnia Designs. I definitely want to knit more of her patterns. She has some really, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it was her that I was looking at that like has so many beautiful sock patterns that I want to try. I have one done. The other one has not been started because if I recall correctly, I stopped working on these because I needed the needles for my blooming lavender socks and I wanted to get those off the needles and then come back to these. But then by the time I finished the blooming lavender socks, I feel like it was time to do gift knitting socks. So these have been patiently waiting for me to get back to, and I do intend on casting on the second sock hopefully soon and getting back to working on this because it's so much fun. Just the color changing, the little stripes, I really enjoy it. I will be coming back to this. So now for one of my new cast-ons, we're gonna talk about this at the end a little bit more because it has to do with my stash goals for 2025, but I inventoried my yarn. And so I took everything out of my yarn cabinet, organized it. It was getting very unorganized in there, so I reorganized it. And I found just like a lot of scrap yarn. It's not even scrap yarn, just like random skeins of yarn that had been wound up in these little balls. And I know they came from my mom. I know my mom had just like given me a few bags of like random yarn that she just wasn't gonna use. And every time I wanted to get back into knitting, because I've been on and off knitting since I was very young, like middle school, like I don't know, 3rd grade, something like that. Didn't get, you know, serious didn't get serious about my knitting until I was till like what, it was like the end of 2022. But like all the times that I would kind of get into wanting to like knit again, I would go to my mom and I'd be like, hey, do you have any yarn I can mess around with? Because I didn't want to like buy nice yarn and not do anything with it. And yeah, so I have just all these little random things of yarn. I was like, you know what? I want to start getting this out of my stash. So I cast it on with this random yarn. I don't know what this is. There's no ball band. It's very old. I don't even like it. It feels very rough. I wouldn't be surprised if it was an acrylic wool blend. I don't like it, but I am knitting a hat with it. And I just figured I would give this to my mom. My mom loves knitted hats. Every time I knit her one, she just loves it so much. And ever since, if you've been here for a while, there was the Chelsea toque that I knit for her, and fortunately it got lost and we were unable to get it back, and she was still upset about it, which is valid because I'm still upset about it. It just turned out so well and she loved that hat. So I feel like I just want to knit her all the hats so she can just have a lot of them. This is not really a color that I feel like I would be super drawn to, so I just thought I'd knit it up for my mom since it was her yarn to begin with. The pattern that I'm following, it's a free pattern. I'm totally blanking on who it is by, and I think the name of it is like Beanie Alba, I think, or it's Alba Beanie or something like that. It will obviously be on the screen like always. I was just looking for because this is worsted weight yarn. I did the little wraps per inch to figure out what weight of yarn it was, and I was just looking up hat patterns for worsted weight yarn because I think the majority of the ones that I normally knit are for either DK or fingering, and I wanted, you know, I just wanted to do something a little bit different as well. I mean, the hat pattern isn't like different. It's, I feel like, very similar to a lot of hat patterns, but I wanted something that I hadn't done before, just the pattern that I hadn't done before, even though this is just, for the most part, just a 1x1 rib pattern, so it's not anything unusual. But again, the pattern was free, so I just figured I would go for it, and I really liked how the samples looked. So I needed something to mindlessly knit on. I needed a break from socks, but I didn't have anything that I could kind of just pick up and knit on without thinking about it. So that's what this pattern, or this project, that's the, what am I trying to say? That's the purpose that it is serving, is to be my mindless knit that I can take wherever and knit on whenever and be able to put it down and pick it up without thinking about it. Then my next cast on, this was my serotonin cast on, or my dopamine cast on, I don't know what to call it. So I had some leftover matching Knitting for Olive mohair and just their, what is it called? Just their merino wool from leftover from my Simper sweater that I knit in 2023. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, and I had like, I think I have 2 full skeins of each yarn and then partial skeins of each yarn, and it just seemed like kind of like a little bit of an awkward amount. I probably could have made something else with this and used up a bit more of the yarn, but I'm sure I'll find other ways to use up the rest of the yarn. I just wanted to do this pattern with this color and with this yarn. So I cast on the Turtle Dove Shawl. It's a pattern by Sari Nordlund. As you can see, I'm not very far on it, but that's my little start to it. This is a little kind of shawl with lots of, you know, cables and other types of texture. So I'm super excited that I got to finally cast this on. I've been meaning to cast it on for a while now, and it just never quite ended up being the right time. But I want to say a huge thank you to my friend Miranda, because she gifted me this pattern. So thank you again, Miranda, for the pattern. I really appreciate it, and it was so generous of you and so kind of you to do that, and I just really appreciate it so much. So thank you, and glad to finally be casting it on. I feel like she had gifted it to me a while ago, and I hadn't been able to have it come up in my queue yet. So very excited, and I'm gonna knit this up, and every time I wear it or every time I knit it, I'm gonna be thinking about Miranda, and yeah, so that's exciting. But yeah, so anyways, again, that was super nice of her, and I'm just still not over like how kind it was for her to gift that to me. So thank you again, and so much love to you, my friend, if I think you're watching. So I have to go change the battery on my camera, and then we will talk about my last whip, and then we'll get into the rest of the episode. Next up, my last whip. Super excited to show you my progress on this, and I think it'll be finished by it should be finished by my next podcast. I am working on my Faye Summer top again. This is a pattern by Irene Lynn. I'm gonna pop it on this hanger real quick. Here it is. Okay, obviously a lot of orange lately. I am really enjoying like these types of colors, obviously. I'm knitting it in Pearl Soho Good Wool. The colorway is apple cider. I'm almost done with my current my current skein, so I have one left. I need to get that wound up and finish this off. So yeah, I have been taking quite a bit of a break from this, trying to get some other things off the needles, and now it's finally time to focus in on this project. So I don't know where I was at the last time I showed it, but definitely it was joined in the round, I believe, but I hadn't really gotten very far. So I've done like pretty much the rest of the body since picking it back up. And this is such a fun pattern. I've just been enjoying it so much. I'm really enjoying the yarn. It's a really nice wool yarn, really fun to work with. Yeah, this pattern has baubles, lace, cables, other little texture things like right here with the kind of twisted, almost like a twisted rib thing going on there. It's gonna be so cute. I'm doing something a little bit different with the hem on mine, and I'm gonna save that to talk about next time when you can actually see it better. It's very scrunched on the needles right now, so I don't want to I can't really show you what I mean by what I'm doing. So I don't think it's super complicated, but I'd rather, you know, instead of being super repetitive, I'll just save it for next time when I can actually show you the whole thing. I think this is gonna look so good, and I'm very excited for it, and I will talk a lot more about it when it's finished. That is gonna be my kind of main project until it's done, and then I will pick a different one to really focus in on and try to finish. But I do plan on casting on some more garments soon, because those are what I enjoy knitting on the most, and I love having little projects on the needles, but I have too many accessories, and obviously I just cast on another hat and another little scarf shawl situation, and I probably should have maybe waited on those until I was done with some of the other accessories, but it's fine. I'm definitely feeling a lot better about my whips. I feel like they're much more manageable right now, so I'm not feeling that need to like get things off the needle super quickly anymore, which is nice. Let us get into acquisitions, which I realize I don't have out yet, but these are a couple of Christmas gifts that I got from my family, and then I did order some yarn from Knit Picks after Christmas but before the new year, so I will show you what I got. I'll try my best to show you. Some of the yarn is for a blanket, so I'm not gonna try to show all of it to you because it's quite a lot of yarn, but I'm gonna go get it. This is the first set of yarn I'm gonna show you, is the yarn that I bought from Knit Picks. It is to do the seed stitch basket, I believe is what the pattern is called. I'll obviously pop in a picture. Oh, but I got I think 6 skeins of this yarn. It is their Simply Wool in the colorway Wanda, so it's just kind of this creamy white shade. Do my best to kind of show all of it. But yeah, so I'm gonna be making the biggest size. I kind of just wanted something to put some of my yarn scraps into that I don't know, just as like an extra way to kind of organize my scraps. I'm thinking the basket I will be putting all of my leftover sock yarn into, where I have like maybe half a skein or so left, where I could definitely use it for maybe another pair of socks, but haven't decided what like contrast color I would pair it with or something like that, or just don't have the time yet to cast it on, so it'll kind of just be able to sit together in a little basket. So that's the first acquisition. And then the second acquisition I got, this was a present from my sister and my brother-in-law. They got me, I believe it was 6 skeins. I'll maybe try to hold them all up, but this is Malbrigo Rios, and the colorway is Syrah Grapes, and it's just this like beautiful, very purpley color. I do have 6 of these as well, so I can knit a sweater out of them. I do have a sweater that I knit out of Malbrigo Rios, and I really like it. It pills quite a bit, but it is my Naima pullover. It's definitely been on the podcast before. And I have been using that pretty much every single day when I go to take my dog out for our WALK. say it because she's here. But when I take her out for that, I put that sweater on because stylistically it's not my favorite, but like I like it, but the color of it isn't something I normally love wearing. Beautiful color, I just don't love it on myself. And then the fit of it wasn't my favorite when I first knit it, so it kind of just became like a home sweater, just like one I would wear when I'm at home. I don't normally wear it out, so it kind of then became my dog walking sweater. Yeah, I just pop on another sweatshirt over it because it's just pretty cold, and hat and gloves, and I'm good to go. But it's very soft yarn. I think this is merino wool. Yeah, superwash merino wool, so very, very soft. Don't know what I'm gonna make with this. I have a little bit of a plan. It's not 100% set, but the yarn that I showed in my last podcast episode that I was thinking about, I said in the podcast I was thinking about knitting the Dear Duomo sweater. Not sure if I'm saying that properly. Sorry if I'm not. But knitting that sweater with that yarn that I had and that I acquired last time. Amanda had mentioned that it would look really good as a Salty Days sweater by Kudavikika. And I like that sweater, and I do want to knit it, and I do think that yarn would look really, really good with it. But then I got this yarn, and I was thinking, because I was looking up like what people were knitting with this yarn, and some people were knitting the Salty Days sweater with this yarn, and I was thinking like, ooh, that could look kind of cool. I know texture and dark colors doesn't always photograph well, but in person I've heard it looks really nice, and I haven't really done a like darker sweater with like texture, so I think that could look really cool. So I don't know, I'm thinking I'm gonna try it. It could end up not looking great. Like, no, I think normally I would just do a stockinette sweater with this. I was also thinking I could do this sweatshirt again with this yarn, and now that I'm actually thinking about that, I might just do that. I think because that would kind of let these colors shine a bit more. I think I just really want to do the Salty Days sweater, but I also really want to do the Dear Duomo sweater, so I was kind of trying to figure out like a way to do them both. But I think I should just buy yarn specifically for the Salty Days sweater that I know I would wear a lot. So I think I might do another sunset sweatshirt with this yarn, because this yarn is super comfortable as well. It would make a really great, especially just like a great, you know, I'm just at home, I'm just gonna throw this on sweatshirt type situation. But obviously I need to make sure I have enough yarn, and I'm sure I do, but you know, we'll see. And I might change my mind later on. Depends on how quickly I get it casted on. One of my gifts for my parents this year was a blanket kit from Pearl Soho. So I'm going to be knitting the, is it metered? Is that how you say it? I feel like there's just so many things today that I don't know how to pronounce. And it's just because I feel like I've only read them, like read the words and not heard anyone pronounce it, so I'm just doing my best. But the mitered, how do you say it? I feel like I will look it up. But it's that Pearl Soho metered blanket, or mitered blanket. It's the larger size, and it's their like, I forget like what the set of colors is called. I will have it on the screen, but it's like the pink and orange one. So this, I just have a buttload of linen quill. So I have these ones. If you want to know the specific colorways, I would just go look at their site for the kit that they have. It has it all listed, but there's so many colors. Got some golds in there as well, some pinks. I will just put up the picture of the one that I got the yarn for, that I'm gonna knit, because I can't show you all this yarn. Obviously, that much yarn for that blanket that I'm going to be knitting is, you know, a little bit on the pricier side. So that I asked for it for Christmas, and also informed my parents that they should wait until Pearl Soho was having a 25% off sale, which they did. And so we're able to get it on sale, which is awesome. Those are my acquisitions. I have a little bit of a life update and a little bit of a, you know, knitting stash goal update for you. So I'm gonna talk about my stash first, and then I'm gonna be talking about a little, just a little fun little update, kind of life update, kind of career update. Like, well, we'll get into it. So I'm gonna talk about my stash first. So in 2025, I really do want to focus on getting around to knitting a lot of the projects that I have bought yarn for and just have not casted them on because I keep getting distracted by other things. And so in order to do that, I have two goals that do not feel restrictive, which is really, really nice. I can still buy yarn, but just the way that these goals are set up, it's like I'm gonna really think through, like, do I want to buy this yarn or do I want to knit from my stash? Like, so it's just gonna help me be a bit more mindful and not like impulse buy things, and just really think through, like, what projects do you want to prioritize. The first goal is, and this is where my yarn inventory kind of came in handy, is that, and I guess, like, I didn't necessarily have to have a yarn inventory for this, but I think it just helps me kind of put into perspective and be able to keep track of things better. The goal is that for the whole year of 2025, like when we get to the end of 2025, I want to be able to look at my stats, and I will be checking in obviously throughout the year on how this is going, but I want to use up more yardage than I am bringing in. So the yardage coming out of my stash being higher than the yardage going into my stash. Obviously, this is not an original idea. I've seen a lot of people do things like this, and it's literally mostly just to create awareness. I don't have a specific goal of like how much more yardage needs to come out or how much I'm stashing down this year. Literally, like, I would love for the numbers to be a good amount of difference. Like, if the difference is only like 50 yards, like I used up 50 more yards than came into my stash, that'll be a bit of a bummer, but it will technically have still hit my goal. But I'm really looking for a bigger difference there, but I don't really know what's super realistic for that, because that's why I'm tracking things, and that's why I wanted to do the inventory to kind of get a sense of, like, when I say that I used up this many yards, like having a better sense of how much yarn that actually is. And I'm using yards because it just seemed better than trying to use grams. I don't know. You know, some people do this with grams, other people I've seen do it with like yardage or meterage. So that's how I'm doing it. It just made sense to me that way. I don't know. Every time I finish a project, I'm gonna go ahead and enter it into my spreadsheet so it's like nice and up to date. I'm just going off of, like, for the most part, I'm not gonna try to be super duper accurate on this, by the way. When I'm taking, like, whatever it says on the ball band is what I'm taking. I don't really want to try to like weigh every single thing to try to be like super, like, this, you know, this skein says that it's supposed to be 100 grams, but it's really, you know, 110 grams, and therefore, you know, it's more yardage. Like, I'm not going to be trying to do that type of math. So like with scraps, for example, if I don't really know how much I have left over and I do have to weigh it and then calculate it out that way, I will do that, because I do think it's good to count this, like, kind of scrappy stuff. Like, you know, I have this leftover skein from this project and I'm using it for this, like, I am going to, or maybe it's a partial skein or whatever, like, I'm gonna try to figure out how much I used up for that. But I'm not gonna weigh skeins as they're coming in to have it be more accurate. I'm just not gonna mess around with that because I don't care about it to that level where I need to be that accurate with it. But every time I finish a project, I'm just gonna be keeping track of it, how much yarn approximately was used in the project, and yeah, and I'm gonna just keep track of it. And as obviously if I buy new yarn, it will, so all the yarn that I showed here, by the way, it does not count. I bought it or I received it in 2024. So this is just starting in 2025. So as I buy yarn this year, or if I get gifted yarn or something this year, like I will add it and it'll be part of the yarn that's coming in, but everything else is considered stash yarn and therefore is not entered into that like coming into my stash category. The second goal is also kind of supposed to, you know, help with this overall goal of trying to get to some of these projects that have been just sitting ready waiting, is that again at the end of 2025 I'm going to be able to, and I will be tracking it throughout the year, but I want to at the end of 2025 be able to say that 75% of my finished objects were stash projects that I already had the yarn for. If I buy yarn to that 75% allows me to cast that on right away, but it also will encourage me to maybe hold off on buying certain things so that I, you know, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to cast that on right away, so maybe I don't need to buy it right now because I'm trying to make sure I'm hitting that 75% mark. So I will be keeping you updated. I know some of you won't care, but for those of you who like this type of thing, I will be keeping you updated. I don't really know how often, maybe every other month. I don't feel like it's something I need to be updating you on all the time. And I'm really not like a huge numbers person, so I don't really want to have to be like calculating out all this stuff all the time. So maybe every other month, so every few podcast, like every third podcast or every fourth podcast, I will try to update you on and keep you in the loop with how I'm doing with my goals. And yeah, I feel like these are just ways where I'm not feeling forced to knit faster, I'm not being forced to knit anything specific. It's just like reminder and helping me just kind of be more aware of, you know, how often I buy yarn and then just kind of put it in my stash and don't get around to it. Okay, so this next part is I'm excited and I wanted to kind of share a little update with you on my writing. I'm currently working on draft 3 of what I'm hoping will be my debut novel. I don't have like a date where I will be publishing that yet. I will obviously let you know when it gets closer to that time. I am hoping sometime in 2025. We're still kind of seeing how long things take me, you know? Sometimes it's like, wow, finishing that took a really long time, and like draft 2 I finished in a month, but like, you know, it's like how, you know, my energy levels and my creativity and all that like can totally impact, and maybe it'll take me a really long time to finish draft 3. I don't know. It's probably not going to, because I kind of set myself a deadline for finishing draft 3 at the end of January, and I have critique partners now and they're lined up to read and critique my draft, so at the end of January, so I'm really trying to hit that goal or that deadline, but I just wanted to let you know that it's coming along. And so this is something that I've seen other writers do when they finish kind of a big draft. They will get their draft printed out as a paperback, and it's really cool because then you get to hold your book, even though it's not ready, even though it still needs some work, even though there's probably a ton of typos and grammar mistakes in it. It's like you get to hold it in your hands, and I did that for myself because it felt really motivating. It felt really inspiring to like get my draft printed out. And then one of my friends made a kind of just a little cover for it. It's, you know, it's not going to be the actual cover for the book. This book cover is giving contemporary romance, and my book is more so fantasy romance, and so it's not exactly like the vibe of the book, but it does fit my main character rather well, I feel, and so it's just kind of a fun little thing that I just wanted to share with you. And also, you guys are going to see the title of the book. It could change, but this is the current title that I'm thinking of, and I'm just going to show it to you. So this is my book. I just feel like I had to share it with you all. I know some of you are readers, and yeah, it's a book. Like I wrote, there's actual, like an actual story in here. I'll just show you, it's like got a little, I don't know, I don't know if you can see anything because of but like there's words on the page. The ring light definitely is messing with this, you know, blowing out and everything, but this is draft 2. I'm currently working on draft 3, and I just wanted to show you because I just thought it was cool. And again, like I said, I know some of you are readers, and if you like fantasy romance with spice, at some point I hope you'll read my book when it's out, which is not anytime soon. But I just wanted to give you a little update. It's happening, right? I'm making progress. It is gonna happen. I am gonna publish it. I'm self-publishing it. Nobody can stop me. That's why I'm self-publishing, because I don't want any corporation to tell me I can't, that they won't be able to sell my book. So it'll be something that people will be able to read, hopefully this year. I kind of just wanted to share that because I've shared on this channel about getting laid off in 2023 and moving back in with my parents, and how I wanted to do that, move back in with my parents, sell my house so I could focus on writing, and I'm doing it. I'm doing the damn thing. So thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video, but if you did make it this far, leave me a book emoji. It'll be our little inside little secret. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed getting to hang out with me and talk about knitting. If you were working on something while watching, let me know what it was. I would love to hear about your projects, and I hope I was able to entertain you adequately while you were knitting or doing some other craft. Anyways, have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you get lots of knitting time in, a lot of crafting time in, a lot of creative time in, whatever you're working on. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in my next podcast. Bye!